Knight. As in Knight, you put a hyphen and then Tay. You will find me. Hey, last week we had a very, very, very interesting conversation.
Joy 99.7 FM.
About this 19-year-old who wanted to get married at all costs. And one of the things that came up very strongly was to find out if she's mature enough. It's not just about the legal age, but are you mature enough? And then, yes, we realized that, look, this gets thrown about a lot. Maturity. And no crying, then what is it? So this morning we're having this conversation. Marriage is not just about being old enough, but being mature enough. And we want to find out, what does it mean when we say that someone is mature enough to be in a serious relationship and to get married? Marriage is no joke. Are you ready? The whole subject of maturity. Let me say a very big thank you to Dano Milk. Choose tasty milk, choose nourishment, choose Dano Milk. Dano Milk, go for it. And Vitamilk, indeed, a nutritious beverage that feels good anywhere, anytime. Once again, our WhatsApp line is 055 1111997. Will we be able to activate the phone lines? We will see. And if we do, it will be on 0302216541. 0302216541. So we're delving into the conversation right now. Reverend Kofi Boateng Esquire is right here in the studio. Kofi, good morning.
Good morning, Edem.
You're welcome once again.
Thank you so much.
And thank you again.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Now I have two of Brofono. So when I say I have two of my favorite ladies on Zoom, means that there are other favorites, right?
Exactly.
Okay, great. Because I don't want to offend anybody. Hey, Phoebe, how are you?
I'm well. I'm well.
Dear.
How are you?
It's been ages, Phoebe.
I know.
How are you? You're
I'm
good.
Well, I'm blessed.
And the
Yes.
family?
They are very well. Thank you.
This sister, you're actually no. I see what you have done to your hair and all.
I'm following you.
Oh,
You're my
dear.
big sister.
Good to see you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Great. Ariel, the wellness coach.
Hello.
Hiya. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing too?
I'm very well. Yourself?
Great. Thank you so much. I am doing well. Thank you.
Thanks.
I mean, you know that I had a very good rest, so I'm in very high spirits. Every day I'm
I can
hyper.
tell.
Oh dear. I mean, PG was supposed to join us this morning as well, but he suddenly took ill. PG, we're praying you get well really quick. Get well really quick. We'll get in touch with you right after the show. We're sorry. Okay, so we're talking about maturity before marriage. Last week we had a conversation, and this conversation is, coming out from what we talked about last week about this 19-year-old who wanted to get married at all costs. Her parents think that you still have a lot of maturing to do. You still have a lot of exploring to do. You still have a lot of growing up to do. You still have a lot of life ahead of you, your education, getting a proper job, and all that. And then we shared, some very interesting perspectives and angles to that show. But then, like I said, one of the things that came up very strong was, is she mature enough to want to be married at 19? Between Kofi and Nicolina last week, it was really about, I mean, initially we said, the fears of parents, but we changed that word and we said concerns. Every parent whose child 18, 19 would want to get married, you definitely would be concerned about a lot of things. Is she ready? Can she handle what marriage brings? Because the parents are married and they know the things that they have to deal with and surmount every day, and we had that conversation and gave some advice. So today we want to talk about this whole idea of maturity. We hear people tell people that you're old, but you're not mature. The fact that you're old doesn't mean that you're mature enough. So when we talk about maturity, especially relating it to relationship and marriage, what are we talking about? Kofi happens to be right in front of me here in the studio, so I will start with you, Osofo Lawyer.
All right, Edem, good morning again, and good morning to our listeners. So first of all, when we talk about maturity in relationship or marriage, we're not focusing on the age, because we know that there are people who are old in age but are not very wise or are not very mature in their thinking or the way they do things. So the focus is actually on being emotionally mature, because we know that relationships can be very complicated. It involves lots of practical skills. It involves lots of intense emotions. It involves the willingness to learn. And so where in a situation where individuals are not emotionally mature or not emotionally intelligent, it can make or unmake the relationship. So the focus is actually on what we need to, who we need to be or what we need to be in order for our marriages or relationships to succeed.
Great.
And these include the way we are able to empathize, the way we are able to express our feelings in a non-violent way, the way we are able to create healthy boundaries and respect the space of others. I mean, if you're married and you're always snooping on your spouse's phones because you're looking for trouble or you're so suspicious, obviously that could lead to some trouble. If you are married and you cannot feel for your spouse when they are down, when they are not doing so well, you cannot tell and be able to empathize and be supportive, obviously your spouse will not be too happy with you. So there are lots of things, how you resolve conflict in the marriage, how you communicate. I mean, being emotionally mature means that you're not afraid to show your vulnerabilities. You're not afraid to express your low moments, So there's a lot of things that entail what it means to be emotionally mature.
Great. So, in essence, if we're relating this to the age thing, then we're saying that there may be, you could have, say, a 40-year-old man.
Yes.
And probably a 25-year-old man. And this 25-year-old could be exhibiting these traits much better than this 40-year-old.
That is so.
In that case, we'll say this 25-year-old is probably more mature than this 40-year-old.
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me come to you, Phoebe.
Hello.
Hi, Phoebe. We can hear you.
Hi.
Maturity. In marriage, before you get married. So we'll always go back to the topic, saying that it's not just about being old enough, but it's more about being mature enough, and we're exploring this whole subject of maturity.
And I like what Rev was saying about it not being an age-based issue. And practically speaking, for a couple to thrive, there are 3 areas that they need to align in, and that is their vision, their values, and their identity. And when an individual is not very clear about their identity, their vision, and their values, it's very hard to align with somebody else and to be able to come to some form of cohesive whole and thrive in a relationship or as a couple. And so it requires the person to, first and foremost, identify who they are, be very clear about who they want to be, the values they want to espouse, and then um, obviously the vision that they have for the future. And when they're able to do this and they meet someone who is a potential wife or husband or spouse or partner or whatever, then they're able to communicate these values with them. But then at the crux of it, the person needs to be willing to compromise and sacrifice. And that's where maturity really needs to come in. And so if you're not able to speak that language, if you're not able to express emotional intelligence, have empathy, be able to be a good listener, be able to be a great communicator, all these skills that one learns over time. And it's not just about time in the sense of linear time, but actually making that conscious investment to grow in these areas. Then you can find that the person is not mature enough, the person is not equipped enough to make that commitment to someone else.
Thank you, Phoebe, for that initial comment. It's, I mean, basically aligning with what, Kofi just said. So we're talking about this person must be emotional intelligent, and emotional intelligence in itself is a whole conversation.
Yeah.
You must have empathy, you must be able to communicate properly, and you definitely need to be equipped with these values to be mature enough, because there are hurdles ahead of you. Not to say that marriage is a scary thing, but you will have to work through it.
Exactly.
And these are values, or these are tools that you need to be able to work and navigate yourself through marriage. Great. Ariel, I'll come to you now.
Yeah.
Yes. Maturity. Your initial comments about maturity in a relationship or marriage or somebody, or what does it mean really?
Okay. Good morning, Edem. Thank you. Good morning to our lovely listeners. In fact, this week, this is the second time I'm having a conversation like this. And I've had a lot of questions from people about maturity and marriage as well. But simply saying, like all the other guests have said, it's not just about the age. Though every country has an age limit where you need to get there before you can get married. I think for Ghana it's 21 for the female and the male is 25. If I'm not, lawyer will correct me on
it's
that
18.
one. It's 18 now. Okay, yes. 18. Yes. So
it actually has been 18 for the longest period.
The legal age for marriage.
Yeah.
Okay. So every country has that. But on an individual level, there are so many things that you need to call yourself mature to get married. And like we are saying, they shared about the emotional and the, empathy side and all that. But there's also a need to know that you need to have some moral maturity. And moral maturity is some of the things that doesn't come just because you turned 18. There's a need to have social maturity as well. And if you're going into a relationship and you are not fully developed, so simply putting maturity in a simple term is being developed. So a full developed person. What are your personal developments on certain areas in your life? Which are some of the areas that's been mentioned? Physically, are you fully developed to even get pregnant and carry a child? When it comes to your health condition at that age. And then your emotional maturity. Your social maturity is also crucial, because if you are not socially matured, there are a lot of things you are going to experience. If you don't even know how to deal with people on a very matured way to even accept your mistake and say you are sorry, you haven't aligned yourself with your values, you don't know where you are going in your life, you haven't developed on the 8 dimensions of your life, including financial maturity. If you are not financially matured, how would you go into a relationship where you are going to be making decisions together in order to get somewhere with what you are doing? So there are a lot of areas that needs this maturity. Physically, you need to be matured. Socially, you need to be matured. Morally, you need to know what morally it is that you are going into and understand it, as well as also spiritually, which Phoebe spoke about, more about the values you are living your life with, so that when you go into the marriage, that value will guide you in your decision making. But if you don't have this maturity and you just decide that because I have turned the age that I need to go into marriage, it's okay. There are a lot of things that will surprise you. And I think it's not people's fault to think that they can just get married. No, nobody has actually made us aware of what it takes or what we need to do on our own before we get married. So maturity is not just about the age. You need a lot of grounding in yourself as a person, meaning that you have developed mentally, socially, and spiritually, and also emotionally, psychologically, to understand the terrain you are going to go to. If you just think by turning 18, you can face everything, that may not be so true. Because, like the word says, sometimes experience is the best teacher. So, age is not just the factor, though physically, you need certain qualities as well. But there are several things you need to be developed upon before you can say, I'm ready to get married.
Great. So what it is that the physical maturity is important. The age is also very important.
Yes.
Because you can't also get up at age 15 and say that, okay, yeah, I think I am very intelligent. Like, for instance, you have some kids who are really blessed with very high IQs.
Yes.
You know, you're 5. You're blessed with this very high IQ that you can do what professors do. Doesn't mean that all of
You're
a
ready
sudden you
to
can
marry.
be in the classroom and you are lecturing people.
Exactly.
No. So you could be 15 and, you know, exhibit a lot of maturity, but then that physical and physiological development is also very important.
Yeah.
So when you hit 18, then we'll say that physically or physiologically you're ready to be in a relationship that you can probably manage. You can get pregnant at that age and you won't have people pointing fingers at you because physiologically you have come of age and physically you have come of age. Asafo lawyer is here. You legally you have come of age.
Yes.
So nobody will bash you for that. Beyond that, and those were the questions we were asking last week. Are you now ready mentally to handle all of this? And that's where the emotional maturity comes from.
Edem, I mean, the child with a very high IQ may well be able to lecture others and thrive academically, but are they ready to coexist with another person, you know, in a small space? That is where the challenge comes in.
Exactly.
And as I stated earlier, maturity also involves life's experiences. So how much experience do you have in life for you to be able to impact others positively, for you to be able to live with others?
So I'd like us to break this down. Okay, so we've looked at the physical or the physiological, which we have all said that is very important.
Yeah.
Now, when we take, and I would like us to break it down by citing scenarios to make it
Practical.
yes, more practical to, you know, us and our audience. Especially with the emotional maturity, and that's it, because there's the spiritual maturity as well.
Yes.
You know, and the emotional maturity is there. And then, there are decisional and all of those things where the financial and everything will come through. But then, when I was reading, I came across it's an incident that was cited about this gentleman whose wife told him that this Christmas I'd like to spend it with my parents. Then husband became upset. Why your parents? You've made the decision already, and you just get up and tell me that you're going to spend the Christmas with your parents. When I was also thinking about taking time off for us to be together as a family, or, you know, go for vacation somewhere and all that. And this man gets very upset, not talking to his wife. And yeah, so there's Cold War in the house. Okay. And this guy was labeled as immature because she didn't come up to say that I have decided, closed,
want
I
to.
would like to spend it with my parents because I haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah.
And if you had plans, there's a way you could have communicated to go like, oh, wow, that probably is a good idea. But how about us doing A, B, C, D and being able to communicate properly for this person to understand? But then you get up and then you're upset because of that. I won't talk to you again. This person has been labeled as not being emotionally mature. There's another incident where a couple are having a conversation. Somebody says something the other person doesn't like, and usually I think it's the men who exhibit a lot of those. The woman says something.
The women mature more quickly than men do. So
you get upset, and then you're banging doors, and I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
And, live your life and let me live my life for very little and simple things. When you read around, people like this have been labeled as immature. I'd like us to get into some of these things. When you say somebody is emotionally mature, what traits do they exhibit? How do they handle issues that they are not happy about? Things that upset them. How are they supposed to go about it? Especially so knowing that in a relationship or marriage, you're not by yourself anymore. There's another person you're dealing with who also has a lot of emotions, who has feelings. So how are you supposed to handle these issues? And also not come across as trying to be the bigger person in the room and suppressing your own emotions and your own feelings. I don't know if you guys get what I'm trying to drive at.
So yes, Edem.
Okay, great.
So being able to control your emotions
Okay.
is very critical when it comes to emotional maturity.
Okay.
So the fact that you get very angry and ticked off, very upset over something trivial may indicate that you're not emotionally mature.
Okay.
And it also means that you're not able to communicate effectively by listening and talking back or letting your concerns be known in a way that is not confrontational, that you can have a conversation with your spouse. Sweetheart, I thought that we're all going to do this together. How come you're doing this? I mean, in that case, what are we supposed to do? What am I supposed to do with the children? Or are you going to just go and leave us? Or are you expecting all of us to go? Oh, I thought as a family it would be good for us to do so and so. That is how you communicate. But when all is said and done, Edem, when you're wrong, how do you also handle it? Are you able to apologize? Are you able to forgive? Because ultimately you want to have a marriage or a relationship that thrives. So if you cannot forgive and you're filled with resentment and you keep going back to old scores and things that happened 20 years ago and 5 years ago you did this and 2 years ago you did that, and you keep, going back to these things, obviously it will be difficult for you to make peace. It will be difficult for you to live with your spouse in a more understanding and in a harmonious way.
Great. So, I'll let Phoebe and Ariel talk and then we can sum this one up. Yes, Phoebe.
Yes. You alluded to a child's development. The reason why the age for assent, even for marital, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. The reason why the age for marriage is 18 is because by then, what they have discovered is that the frontal lobe of that young person has developed. So they're able to execute, executive functioning. They're able to manage their personalities, their motor function, and those basic, behavioral tools much easier than a younger person. That's why they say that, the age should be like 18 because of the factor of executive function. And that's the person's ability to manage themselves. So that's where, when we talk about emotional intelligence, we talk about self-awareness, and we even talk about self-regulation, because in the examples that you're giving, if the person is not able to control their emotions and also be able to adequately assess the emotions of the people around them. And because Ariel mentioned social development and social maturity, you need to be able to tap into and to read the emotions of the people around you before you make an executive decision, before you decide on something. You need to know how to pause and reflect. You need to know how to process what you're hearing before you give a response. And so all these things come with age on one side, natural physical development, but also, like I said, intentional learning, and just going through the process of growing, and learning through programs like this, learning how to develop these skills for yourself. And I also think that through communication with your partner and learning how to hone these skills in communication and in just in community. And I think a lot of young people who go into relationships miss out on this. So we when we're younger, you have this tendency to just want to be alone with that person and get to know them, but not get to know them within their community, get to know them within their home, within their friendship groups, within their work colleagues, because it gives you a multi-dimensional understanding and of that person, and even of yourself and how you react in these settings. So it's very important that if this is something that you want to pursue, that you make that decision to learn and also open up and be vulnerable to that person to get to know you as well.
I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. So when people
Okay.
make up their minds and decide that, okay, I am listening to Home Affairs today, and I am learning and understanding that there are certain personal skills that I will have to hone. For instance, learn to communicate very well.
Mhm.
Where do they even start from? Because you see, before they
That's
come,
such a good question. Oh my God.
where did they even start from? Because before they
That's
come
such a
into
good
before they
question.
come into the relationship, they have been by
Yeah.
themselves. I do
Mhm.
things that suit me.
Mm.
I mean, it's just about me, really. But
Yeah.
now I will have to start, and people are very territorial, you know.
Yes.
I will all of a sudden have to start accommodating this person. You have to unlearn and relearn a lot of things. That's how come I am asking, because there are lots of people who confuse. No, I mean, this is who I am.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
is me.
Yes.
Take it or leave it.
Exactly, and you will have
Yeah.
to accept it, because I'm not changing my colors for anybody. I'm not. You have to
Yeah.
accept me and love me the way I am, and otherwise, there are
Yes.
people who are like that. But we're learning from a conversation like this that
Mm-hmm.
if you want to be in a relationship, then you can't have that approach.
Yes, exactly.
So the person has agreed that I can't have that approach. But my question now is, so where did they start from?
That's such a great question. And I think that, I mean, I'm so happy that conversations like these are even being had. I think maybe about what, 5, 10 years ago, there was no, well, if you ask me, there was no conversation like this. There was, there was nothing about personal development, relationship growth, relationship development. Everybody, you just get in and, you just hold on.
Yeah,
As
you're
long
in
as
love, and that's all that matters.
We didn't have life
you
coaches.
hold on
No,
for
the
something.
words.
So I mean, it's now that for some of us who have been in mental health and studied psychology and everything, now we've learned and we've seen that no, it's a cross section of ideas, and you need to really take a step back and assess what you're doing. And I think young people of today are actually very curious, and they are asking questions. How, like you're saying, and ironically, I had a young man. Well, interestingly, I had a young man reach out to me and say, "I'm in a relationship, and I think my girlfriend and I don't have the skills, and I think we need help. Can you please help us?" And it was very humbling. It was very sweet of him to even recognize that. And I think the first step is for you to first recognize that this is a dire need, especially with the trends that we're seeing in our society now. People really need to be equipped, and they need to take that step forward to say that, look, I want to learn, I want to know. And, thankfully, we have so many counselors, coaches now on the scene. We have Rev here, we have Ariel, and so many others who are available and who are willing to take people through these steps. I also have a course that I run for young people who just want to learn about themselves, want to learn about their partners, and the skill set that they need to make the relationships work. Because like you're saying, I mean, if you don't know and you get in, you may just step out just because you didn't have the skills, you didn't have the tools, you didn't have the know-how, but not because it couldn't work, but because you didn't know how to make it work.
Right. Okay. So, I mean,
Yeah.
from what we are saying, I think that one of the things that will make people, I mean, will make you realize that, or the starting point will be the moment you realize that you're not able to tolerate and accommodate other people's perspectives.
Exactly.
The moment you realize that, and you will have to be conscious of that.
Yes.
You realize that
Yeah.
you always want to make it about you. You should know that you have a problem.
You're not ready for
You're
marriage.
not ready. I mean, you may not have a problem, but like Kofi said, you're not ready.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
it can't be about you all the
the time,
time.
yeah.
No.
Because that's what children do. It's all
yes,
about them.
Yes.
Yes.
My toy, my this, my dad. Why didn't you do this for
You're
me? That's what
behaving like a
children do.
kid.
Yes.
It can't be about you.
Yes.
Once you realize that you don't have the ability to see from other people's perspectives and understand why people, or you don't even have the interest in knowing why people behave the way they do
Yes.
in relation to
Yes.
you,
Yes.
then you're
Yeah.
not ready for
Yes.
to be with anybody. You're not mature enough.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And to add to that, the willingness to learn and unlearn things that you already know is a critical aspect of emotional maturity. So that if you're not able to
Yes.
take feedback and you get upset over every feedback that's given to you, anytime anybody comments about anything you do, you get
Trouble.
angry, there's trouble. It means you're not willing to learn. Because
Yeah.
sometimes some of the things that the feedback that we get is for our own good.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then being able to also, I think we talked about active listening.
Yeah.
Being able to listen attentively, with undivided attention and bounce words back. Oh, if I heard you right, you're saying that you don't like it when I do this. And then Edem, I also talked about your ability to not to be so protective of your vulnerabilities, sharing your feelings. Because if you cannot say that, oh, I feel like what you did really hurt me. It made me very, and you think that if you do that, then you're being weak or you're being a sissy. And so
Exactly.
you would rather not talk and then engage in a cold war. Then obviously you have
You're
a
not
problem.
ready.
Yes.
Great. Ariel, I'll come to you now.
I think, I think one of the things I want to just drop in is these, we have this negative bias naturally as in people where everybody thinks I'm good. And so coming to the consciousness that I can still unlearn and relearn is one of the things that when you are emotionally, you want to be emotionally mature, you need to come to that I am not in totality fully developed in every area of my life. But this negativity bias that everybody feels I am good is what leads to some of the things we are sharing here, where we are saying you think it's all about you. Because we tend to think I'm good, and so the problem
But
is
that's
only
okay.
the other person. But if you change that perspective a bit, that it's not only because the other person is bad, it could be that I am reacting bad to it. It gives you this self-awareness of how you are also impacting the other person. Because when we talk about being emotionally matured, we are looking at someone who is able to control their stresses when they have so much pressure and when they feel they are in conflict with someone. So if a wife tells you, I want to spend Christmas with my parents, and that triggers you, and because of that you don't talk to her, it means the reason why they are saying he's not emotionally mature is he can't be easily spoken to, because this is quite an easy conversation to have with your spouse, no matter how many years you've lived with them. this is a very easy conversation to have. Why did you choose this year to do this? And then that will lead to some answers for you to come to an understanding.
Real, in this case, this person has not even chosen. No, they are only expressing a feeling,
Yes.
a
That's
thought,
what I'm saying.
and it triggered you
there
so
should be
bad.
There should be a conversation on it. I mean, instead of just saying that, why would you consider it at all and not talk to your spouse in the house for days and all that? So that negativity bias that I'm good. So whatever the other person does is because they are not good, is one of the barriers we have when it comes to being conscious, to own the fact that we're still open to learning. You are not done just because you turn 30 by opening up to new ideas, new concepts. There needs to be emotional flexibility. You know, if you are matured emotionally, you are flexible to adapting to new concepts, new ideas, and accepting people as they are also adapting and changing. So when we want to show our emotional maturity, we need to be flexible in our mind as well, and also how we react. Instead of reacting, you need to be a very responsive person. Being responsive means you are taking decisions from a more responsive part by having thorough thought through than just reacting because in that moment you just felt angry at what was said. Being responsive is different from being reactive. And I think that is one of the areas that people need to look at. Am I reacting or am I responding to the needs of my partner? When you are responding, you actually have a thought through process before you even speak. And you think, what am I going to say? If I say no, how does it impact us in a lot of areas? If I say yes, just by having this conscious thought through process, you become aware of how your relationship and your communication can impact the whole relationship. So emotional maturity is something that it needs to be developed and accepted, that I am not fully developed right now. Right now, at my age, when I'm in a relationship, there are still areas that I may need to still adjust. Because once you meet a new person, they have another emotional state, and you also at another level. So there will be some things that you need to now mature again. So unlearning, relearning, and being open to new perspective and development is key, because you can't get it all done in one day, because life is not an end to achieve. We are just striving for balance at every stage in your life. So one relationship with someone, you may be the father who won't talk and it could work, but you may be in another relationship with someone and not communicating can be the problem in that relationship. So there's a need to be more open-minded and ready to be flexible when it comes to how we go into relationships, so that we can be maturing as we go on, because you are not mature today and that is the end of it. There's always room for more improvements. And what we are talking about is actually about being developed personally as a person. And you can't do it today and finish. Even these coaches here are always learning to become their better version, to keep going up and getting more information and knowledge. It's the same with every individual. You can't get it done and say, I am matured and there's nothing more I need to do. So for me, that is the area I look at when I meet people. Are you open and still, developing and learning, relearning, and keep learning to become a more matured version of yourself? And I think we need to look at that everywhere. No matter how old you've been in a relationship, there's always room for improvement.
This one is a masterclass. It is not one of those fun conversations. It's not sweet.
At all. It's very deep.
I tell you, it is not a sweet one. It's about you going into yourself and being very honest with yourself and asking yourself questions. And being able to tell yourself that I need to work on myself.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we're just talking. It's about being very honest with yourself. You know that very solemn conversation that you have with yourself to ask, Am I ready?
Yes.
And we have given you some indicators. I just quickly run through some of them. They're not in any particular order. So we've mentioned that once you realize that you cannot accept other people's perspectives easily or see from their angles, it means that you're not ready to coexist with somebody, because then the marriage means that you're entangled together.
Yeah.
And so if you want to make it about you, that okay, there are some people who say that I've heard that thing before. They cannot share a bed with anybody. I cannot share a room with anybody.
A bathroom.
Yet you want to be married.
Yeah.
And then you meet up somebody, you're talking marriage, and you let the person understand that no matter what you do, okay, we can meet, you can come to my room, I can come to your room, but we can't be living in the same room together. And this is you. And it has to be that, or we don't have a relationship. Yeah. As for you, you are not willing to unlearn and relearn, So your spouse must come in with the understanding that we have to be in separate rooms. It's good you're being honest, but is that really the way to go? Are you willing to understand why they also feel being in the same room is important? Are you even willing to have that conversation? Yeah. Maybe after having the conversation, this person will also, they may also come to understand that, okay, it's okay for us to be in separate rooms. Or you will come to understand that, I think being together is better. But there are some people who are not even willing to have the conversation at all. It is this, it's been stamped, and that is it. Once you realize that that is who you are, you're stuck in your ways. Other people's perspectives don't matter to you. You're not ready to live with anybody. Be on your own and have your peace of mind. And this conversation doesn't concern you.
No compromise.
It doesn't concern you, actually. Now, we've also talked about if you can't be easily spoken to, we all mentioned it, and that's what we are talking about. If you can't be easily spoken to, people are approaching you, they are scared. Hey, what will be his reaction? What will he say? They have to keep patronizing you to speak to you. Yes. Then please be on your own. When you realize that you're making it all about you, we've talked about that. I think Kofi mentioned it also. You behave like a child whose toy cannot be shared. It's for me, give it to me. It's for me, give it to me. It's all about you.
If you don't pass the ball to me, I pick up my ball and the game is over.
Yes. We are not playing, then that is it. Yeah. You have a problem. And when you can't easily express your vulnerability because you think that people will feel you're weak and they will use it against you. Yes. But come on now. If you're in a relationship with somebody and you can't let your guards down for them.
Very mensu.
I mean, it's so hard, Phoebe. There are some people who can't even open their mouth to tell you that, oh, I miss you, because when I say I miss you, you will use it against me. How is that?
That shows the immaturity right there.
No, that one is not immaturity, it's insecurity.
Insecurity starting from immaturity.
Seriously.
You're not mature to even accept your own feelings that I have missed this person.
That is it. But Hope, say it again.
I can't hear you, please.
Ariel, please repeat that one.
I said it's part of emotional immaturity, because you can't even be matured enough to accept that I have missed someone. I mean, then it means your emotions that you are feeling, you can't accept them and express them. Yeah. Right there is emotional immaturity, which may be starting because you feel insecure, or your ego is too much for you to let people know, I have this, soft side of me. Yeah. Now, that is, people see, if I miss a woman, I'm soft. No. Yeah. If I miss a man, I'm soft. No. It is a feeling. And what are feelings? They are emotions that are just passing through. So I may miss you today doesn't mean I miss you forever. So but
there's nothing wrong with missing somebody forever.
There's nothing wrong with missing somebody.
Yeah.
In fact, I like the way you put it, though. The fact that you cannot even accept your own feelings.
You're not authentic.
Yeah. Hey, it's a big problem.
Oh, a problem. Blah, 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 blah. So how, if you can't accept...
And Edem, I want to say something here. This kind of feeling that even when you miss someone, you aren't able to tell them, sometimes lead us to not show concern for people's safety and their security when we are in relationships.
That's all.
Because
Respect their
that will
space.
lead for you to say, are you okay? Or when you left me, have you safely gotten home? These little things are emotional maturity. But if you can't be mature enough to say, I miss you, you wouldn't move on to the next step of showing care for the person's safety, their security, little things. And people wonder, then what do you care about me for, you know? So we need to own our feelings. There's nothing wrong with saying, I slept today and I woke up and I missed you. It's so nice, huh?
Why should I come and tell you I miss you so that you will now come and start trying your home and start doing things?
Exactly.
No. They won't say it. And I look, I think I just love the way Ariel put it. You're not mature enough to accept and imbibe your own feelings. How are you going to have any feelings for anybody, really? So stay there. Stay there. If you really want to be in a relationship, then these are things you really have to work on, because simple I miss you can't say. Then what? So we're having adult conversation. When you get married to this person and you're able to make love to them and you really enjoyed it, so you can't tell them that, oh, you are so sweet, because once you say it, hey, no way.
It will be used against you.
I tell you. But what is wrong with you? This person has a problem.
But Edem,
Yes,
I think
baby.
you guys can agree that some of these things are also steeped in tradition and culture.
Yeah.
We are not taught how to express our
expressed.
feelings. And a lot of us grew up in homes where our parents could not they couldn't be vulnerable with one another emotionally. The relationships were purely functional. Father goes to work, brings home money, mommy takes the money, buys the groceries, cooks, takes care of the house, takes care of the kids, pays the bills, very functional. But there is not a lot of emotional expression in a lot of African homes, like traditionally African homes. There's a lot more emphasis is on what is your function, what is your role, what can you do. It's not who you are, it's not how you feel. And so a lot of people grew up being very emotionally stunted. So as much as, we talk about learning and relearning, some of them have never been exposed to anything close to being emotionally healthy, because there's a lot of emphasis on being physically healthy, even maybe spiritually healthy, financially healthy, but emotions are not part of it at all. I remember they say things like, oh, mental health issues, there's the white people who have it. We don't have money. We don't have money. We don't have the time to have emotional issues.
It's a white people and rich people's problem.
Problem.
Then
I
think
sorry, go
our
ahead.
temperaments also play a role. Because extroverts may be very easy for them to express themselves. And most of the time, they don't even mean what they say. They can say, I love you or I miss you on a whim and not even mean it. And then you may realize that some introverts may be so shy and so uncomfortable expressing their feelings that, it's difficult for them to say anything at all. So we also have to cut those people some slack. But then we can learn. Thank you
very much. I agree to the unlearning and learning. But see, for me, my thing is, like Kofi said, if your intention for not saying it is because somebody will see you as weak, then that one is a problem.
Yes.
If culturally we don't say it because of that, you don't know how to say it, then you are learning.
Yeah.
But this one, you know how to say it. But then your mind is that if I say it, like I know.
You want to appear tough.
I had a conversation with a couple, and the man's problem was that, look, even when they're making love, you're hearing, and the is it that you're hurting or you're excited? You can't. So you ask, are you okay? Is everything okay? All you can hear is so now he's not sure what
Whether
the
he's
problem
hurting
is,
you or...
and that has become his focus now. Okay, so this particular expression, what really does it mean? Are you able to tell me something? You will say it. But these are some of the things that we have to unlearn and learn. Yes. That it's important that your emotions are communicated, especially so if your partner gives you that safe space.
Exactly. Yes.
if you have that
Yeah.
safe space with your partner, then it's important that, come on now, let it out.
Let your guard down a little.
Exactly, and enjoy the
Yeah.
relationship, you see. And then
Yeah.
you have to, Ariel mentioned that it's important that we are more responsive than reactive in a relationship. So your partner is talking to you, listen and respond accordingly, other than always being on the defensive and want to react because you think that you're being attacked. Sometimes you're not being attacked.
Exactly.
And if you're being responsive, even if the person's words don't come out right, that's where you are able to tell them that I don't think your words came out right.
Yes.
And you're
Yeah.
responding to the
Yeah.
person,
Yes.
other than always sitting on edge and thinking that this person is here to hurt me, to hammer me, and then you're always reacting, and then you end up spoiling everything. And
We
then,
also have to learn to focus on issues and not
On-
personalities, on
exactly.
issues, you know.
let me put it down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because when we focus on the individuals, they feel attacked and then they fight back. But when we can point to specific issues, something that they did that you do not like, without calling them names, without blaming them, without being accusatory, then you can have some peace at home.
Exactly. So focus on issues and not on, personal attacks.
Yes.
And then we also have to accept that marriage is for you, the marriage is about the other person. Imagine that we are all trying to make it about our partners.
Yes.
We'll end up being whole together.
That's right.
So you have your individuality, they have their individuality. But in this relationship, I want to make you happy. I want my efforts to add something to you. And
value.
their thoughts is also that they want to add something to you. Imagine where you both will be. But why should we even go into a relationship prejudiced about each other? I mean, yes, offenses may have come along the way because of that. You have issues with your partner, but deal with it and come back to a safe space.
Yes.
Otherwise, instead of staying there and hurting each other, I guess you just have to probably decide to let go.
Exactly.
Great. So we're talking about being emotionally mature. I don't know if there are, and then somebody mentioned flexibility. I think it was a real,
Yeah.
yes, that we also need to be very flexible. I mean, all of it goes into it. Can you be so stiff in a relationship and then you become like a headmaster? Be flexible and learn to play with your partner. Sometimes you need to relax
And
a bit.
open-minded.
There are some people that you can't joke with, though. I mean, there are some people who call their husband say.
Yeah.
Yes, because this is a safe place. In such a relationship, you don't expect
It's a
some of the.
master-servant
I
relationship.
tell you, I kid you not, and you will have to. And Ariel, Phoebe made a very important point about the fact that culturally we're not very expressive people. And so if you're somebody who goes on that tangent and you are always expressing your feelings and saying, sometimes you're seen as you talk too much.
Yeah.
You talk too much. And
Be a man.
your partner is not a mind reader. And so, and the place we are now is not those places that they were.
Yeah.
Trust me. I mean, a lot of things have changed. Some for the good, some for the worse.
All
But
the mental health issues.
yeah, a lot of things
Emotional
have changed.
abuse.
Yes. So if it's not going well, you should be able to talk. But the challenge is if your partner is not approachable and you can't talk to them and you're walking on eggshells when you're around your partner, then there's a problem. And that's why we are having this conversation, that being accommodative of each other is a very sure sign of maturity.
Yeah.
You have to be able to accommodate each other.
Yes.
What are these person's thoughts? What are their feelings? How can we meet each other? It's very, very, very important that we do that. Otherwise, so now I want to find out from us before we go, and I'll activate the phone lines in a bit also, to find out if you're already stuck in a place. This conversation will do good for a lot of people who are now planning to go into marriage. Then you know that you will have to work around these things. But a lot of people are already there.
Yeah.
And they are dealing with these things like no other person's business. Like you're in a relationship where you can't think,
Yeah.
you can't act unless you have been instructed to think and act.
Yes.
Because if you think and you act, you have been disrespectful.
Yes.
If you think and you act, and it goes wrong in a small way, you are in trouble.
Yes.
So for people who find themselves in places like this, what's the way out for them? How do they begin, to make things right? I'll be back for us to talk about that. Now, the joy of every parent is to see their children cheerful and hearty. And to achieve this desire, every parent needs to ensure that their children are given nutritious foods that has the essential nutrients and multivitamins which can promote their welfare. And one of such nutritious beverages is Vitamilk soy milk drink. Vitamilk soy milk is made from natural beans, which is a good source of plant protein. We're talking about vitamins B1 and B2. It has no artificial flavoring, no colorings, and no preservatives. So why don't you go on and choose the Vitamilk Champ for your children, because it has plant proteins and it is nutritious and it is amazingly delicious and very satisfying. It comes in its regular soy milk drink, that's the Vitamilk. You can also have it in the multi cereal with no caffeine, the choco, the banana, the strawberry. And if you go buy it, you can actually buy it in the 250 mils or the 1 liter Tetra Pak. Vitamilk is indeed a nutritious beverage that feels good anywhere, anytime. And Pentecost Hour is a religious broadcast program by the Church of Pentecost. It comes your way with the chairman of the Church of Pentecost, Apostle Eric Nyamiche. Now here are the airing times. You can catch it on Joy FM 1:30 every Sunday, on Hits FM 5:30 a.m. every Monday, and on Joy Prime 7 a.m. every Saturday. Times again, 1:30 p.m. every Sunday on Joy FM, 5:30 a.m. Mondays on Hits FM, and 7 a.m. Saturdays on Joy Prime Television. Tune in every Sunday, Monday, and Saturday as Apostle Nyamiche brings you life-transforming truth that nourishes the soul, ignites passion, and restores hope in the nations. The Church of Pentecost, where you're possessing the nations for the Lord. Why don't you go on and discover the rich, creamy taste of Dano milk? Because it perfectly complements your breakfast and it delivers that flavor you've always craved. Dano milk is fortified with vitamins A and D, and it's also a very good source of plant protein. We're talking about calcium, vitamins B2, B12, potassium, phosphorus, and all of these will come together to keep you nourished every day. So go get your quality Dano Cool Cow instant powdered milk for an unparalleled taste experience and also for your nourishment. Dano milk, just go for it. This advert is FDA approved. 0302216541. Haven't spoken to you in a very long time. We can pick a few of your calls on 0302216541. But whilst I wait for your calls, I was trying to find out if people are already stuck in places like this where their partners are exhibiting all these signs of immaturity and they're frustrated to the 10th power, because you can't even talk to them. They're not listening to you. They're not flexible. They're not approachable. They're stuck in their ways, and you're already in this situation. What do you do? How do you even feel better in any way? I have a message here. Good morning, Edem. Are there same homes as you? Are the same? Then husband must be a very lucky man. I enjoy your humor every minute. Oh, you want to find out if I am the same way at home as I am on air? I'm crazier at home because my husband is equally crazy. Okay. Good morning, Edem and your partners. Pastors who counsel couples to try um to try by hastening the process, they are also the cause of immaturity in marriage. If counseling could take 2 years or so, Charlie, some people will realize their flaws and the marriages may or may not hold. Let us not hasten the process, especially pastors. This is from Saviola in Angloka. All right, thank you. If the pastor is hastening you, remember that at the end of the day, it is you who is going to live in that home. And so, are you ready for the haste? Why are you in a haste, though? Like,
anybody.
This is
Usually,
them.
it's a couple. They're in a hurry to get married. They've made their plans already. They've set their date.
why is the pastor rushing you? And if the pastor is rushing you, why are you agreeing? Because it is your home. It's not the pastor's home, you know. Maturity is basically about depth in all areas regarding relationships. That's the most singular element that keeps the oil of communication, which is the blood of the relationship, going. Need I add this? Maturity is more of a decision than a stage in one's life. Without that, life is literally reduced to abuse and frustration. Maturity is possible with a flexible mindset to live in. Aging definitely isn't growth. This is from Jonas, and I think I agree with you. Okay, we have a phone call. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Home Affairs is as it is. Fix it. That's how Home Affairs goes. This is Jonas. Adam, thank you very much. I'm talking to you. But maturity definitely is.
May I
you
know
listen
who we're
to
speaking with, please?
Yeah, Jonas, I'm fine. This is Jonas.
Jonas, are you there? Okay. I think we lost Jonas there. Okay, so I think I'll start with you, Ariel, on what people should do if they find themselves in the, they're already there. What do you, what's the way out for them?
Okay. The way out is boundary. So if you're in a relationship already and you realize that there's a lot of immaturity in your relationship and you're struggling because you are taking on so much and trying to maybe at this point change the other person. That will really cause a lot of frustration for you if you are trying to change the other person. If you continue and focus on your own development, you'll be able to set boundaries in order to protect yourself. Now, when we talk about boundaries, a lot of people misunderstand the whole thing and think if I set a boundary, it has to be respected more by the other person. If you set a boundary, you are the first person to respect that boundary. So if the person shouts on you, and that is what makes you uncomfortable, or that is the problem because they shout on you, what boundary will you set so they don't shout on you? You don't trigger them to shout on you. So what would you prevent? What would you stop doing to protect yourself so that they don't shout on you? But if you also decide, I'll keep doing the same thing so they don't shout on me, you are not setting a healthy boundary for yourself when it comes to your mental health or your emotional well-being. So for me, if you find yourself in any relationship where immaturity is showing and there are a lot of conflict and all kinds of things going on and you are at your breaking end, the first place of call is what boundaries can I set to protect myself so that I can find some balance in myself. It comes with continuing to develop yourself and knowing your own limits so that you can set these healthy boundaries around yourself so you can even start to think clearly. Because if you don't have boundaries and you are always being barged left, right, center, you can't even think clearly to make decisions. So you are always at an emotionally torn place. So boundary is the first point of call for me for anybody going through anything in a relationship. Learn what boundary is. Learn the different types of boundaries. Dive into knowing yourself and your limit, because your boundary is a communication on its own. As soon as you start changing by the boundary you've set around people, it communicates a different version of yourself for them, because they may know you that you would say this when I do this, but then because you've started changing your boundaries, you won't say certain things again that the person is knowing that you are going to say. And that in itself starts changing the relationship on its own. If nobody sets boundary, then there'll be no, a healthy container around each person. So if you're struggling in a relationship, the first point of call for anybody is to start setting healthy boundaries.
Great.
Learn about boundaries and set them for yourself.
Okay, Riel, thank you very much. Let me go on the line and get this call. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Good morning. May I know who I have on the line, please?
This is Steven from Somali.
Hi, Stephen. Yes, Stephen, please go ahead. We can hear you.
I think this has been a very interesting. But the problem is, are the people open-minded enough to communicate the way they are feeling to you?
Which of the people?
And your partner, you find that they are emotionally unstable. You are asking them and they are like, never mind, it's okay. And they are not saying these things because they are going and coming back for a conversation another day. They are totally off. Anytime you feel they're emotionally down, you ask and they are like, never mind, I'm okay, and stuff. So, Edem, in a situation like this, do you have to give them time for them to go and experience more things and come back, or you are not talking about the things again?
So I guess, you see, this conversation about maturity is not just about the man or just the woman. It's about everybody.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
this person who is, that's my thought. I don't know what my guests have to say, but this person who is also refusing to communicate their feelings.
Yes.
Especially so when you have a partner who has the time and is always realizing that there's something you're not talking about. Can we talk about it? Can we talk about it? And you're not minding the person. You too, you are immature, because then you want your partner to become a mind reader.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to really, how do we exist when you won't say anything?
Yeah.
When I am creating, this person thinks that they are creating a very safe space for you, a very healthy environment for you to talk, and you always refuse not to say anything. They are also not exhibiting maturity because they are not coming. And we mentioned communication as part of the emotional, maturity. If the person is not communicating, yes, he asked the question though. Kofi, I was coming to you.
Edem, it also matters how you ask. If you ask me what is wrong with you, who wants to admit that there's something wrong with them?
Hey.
True.
You see, so it's the way we ask, sometimes the timing when we ask, that will help or fuel the person to also open up. So we need to keep that in mind. The words, our choice of words.
Okay.
But going back to the
language.
Kofi, but
Sure.
I want to I want to give the benefit of the doubt, right? Let's assume that he's doing all the lovey-dovey things.
Sure.
What is it? Can we talk about? He's asking all the right questions,
Yeah.
and you are not talking. Now he asks a question: should I let them go and experience things and come back? That's his question.
Sometimes you have to let people be.
You have to let people be.
Yes.
huh?
But Edem, I'm sure you can relate to it. A lot of women will tell you that when I say there's nothing wrong, I want you to persist. I want you to keep coming back and asking. But then at some point, the men also get tired of asking and doing all the gymnastics just to find out what's in your head. So it behoves on you to also learn to open up and share and not wait
The
to be.
pursuit is nice.
I know, but we get tired of it sometimes. We have to be
I know,
honest.
right?
If I was going to say the same thing, I said, oh, Rev, I
But
sometimes want to
on
be
the
pursued
broader.
you know, right?
Edem, I think.
But it's interesting though. You have a problem. Somebody should pursue you to shut
Yeah,
up.
exactly. Like the doctor has to chase you to diagnose your ailment and prescribe something for you.
No, it's true.
This
Yeah.
can be a very crazy one. Sorry, Kofi, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think generally I believe that in every relationship or every marriage there has to be at least one emotionally mature person who is able to lead the relationship emotionally. So this is not we are not talking about whether or not the man or woman should lead, but we're talking about who leads emotionally. It could be either of the parties.
two.
That person is patient enough, is willing to teach, willing to lead, and basically willing to take the higher road.
If the other person
Yeah.
is unwilling to learn
Yeah.
and follow, then what?
I mean, that's your cross.
Exactly. And
That's your cross.
true.
I'm sorry,
And
you're
that's
already
true.
married. You're not going to leave somebody because they don't know how to communicate, they don't communicate well, or they don't share their emotions and all of those things. Sometimes you can take the higher road and be patient. Say, oh, sweetheart, I mean, I've asked you about 3 times already, and I think I really want to know what's going on with you. Or
Can you stop giving me pressure already? What is it? You've asked one to stop asking. You can get that reaction.
so then you drop it. You
Okay.
should know that it's not every fight that you're going to win in marriage.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
everything that you want to see or you want every information you want to get that you get. So you need to learn to pick your fights carefully and know that some things are just areas are
Unnecessary.
no-go areas in your particular relationship. So you know that this is
Yeah.
the likely response I'm going to get when I ask this question. But you ask anyway. If you don't get it, it's okay. It shouldn't take away the love. It shouldn't take away your ability to be caring and continue to empathize. So take the higher road, forgive when you have to. And you know, there are in certain relationships in which some people apologize even when they've done no wrong just to make peace. And I'm not...
But Kofi, in a case where the immaturity
Yes.
now evolves
Yes.
and has metamorphosed to become outright disrespect,
Yes. Yes.
what do you do?
That's where your boundaries come in.
Okay.
That's where your boundaries come in. Because you are not there to change the person. You can't actually change the
Ariel,
person.
I
And
understand
if you
that.
make that peace with yourself that I don't want to change you, I just want to take care of myself. I want to have a sense of peace and good
See,
mental
Ariel, I
space and
understand
clarity
what
for
you're saying
myself.
perfectly. I understand what you're saying perfectly about
Yeah.
creating boundaries and how helpful
Yeah.
they are. However, this is your husband or
Yeah.
your wife.
Yes.
And how much boundaries can you create around this person for them not to cross it and offend you? The person is always triggered by little things.
Yeah.
Even when you don't, because I mean, even when you don't mean harm, they're always reading certain meanings into actions, and then their actions are always very foul and very
Yeah.
offensive.
Yes.
So what are the boundaries such that I'm not going to talk to you, I'm not going to have
No,
conversations
your
with
boundaries
you?
will be broken all the time. You keep erecting them. Boundaries
Aye.
are meant to be broken.
Okay.
You set the boundary, the person may break it, but you keep setting it until the boundary becomes fixed. When you set boundary, it doesn't immediately work. It doesn't immediately even communicate to the person you are setting a boundary. It is your consistency with your boundary that becomes a good information and a direct message to the other person that a boundary has been erected here.
Sorry,
And
I'm
when you
pushing
set
this
a-
very hard, but sometimes the person acting immature is also a very intelligent person, very
Yeah,
smart
yeah.
person. And they have noticed that probably the boundaries you're building is beginning to make you withdraw a little bit from certain things. You know that they can actively pull it down in your face.
Yeah.
They will. There are boundary bullies. When you study boundary, there are people who will bully you because they know you are setting a boundary. You know, so it's not just because you set a boundary means everything is going to be okay. But that's the starting
It
point.
can even be worse.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
like what
that's
Kofi.
that is the only starting point as well.
I think Kofi's
That's the only
conclusion
starting
to
point
this.
because, like Reverend is saying, you are not going to just pack out because you ask the person 3 times
Exactly.
about what they want and they are not talking.
Exactly.
So where do you start from? Start setting these containers around yourself gradually. It may take
Great.
3-4 years for your boundary to be set in, but that is the work you have to do.
Great.
Adam,
I'll
I
go to-
think
we
sometimes
have it. Phoebe
we-
hasn't had her last
one
word.
just
Okay, quick.
sometimes we expect change too quickly in relationships, in marriages.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we have to give people time.
Time.
We need to learn to also back off sometimes.
Yeah,
There are
yeah,
people
yeah.
who may hear you and act like they haven't heard you, but really they are taking
Exactly.
time to process what you have said or to internalize. And it may sometimes, unfortunately, some things you may see the fruit of what you've said 5 years down the line.
Great.
And that is why
Yes.
patience is very important in
And that
relationship.
is why I like your final conclusion to the matter is your cross.
That's your cross
You
to
gotta
bear.
carry it. Phoebe, finally from you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, it just also stems to the fact that, as much as that person is your husband, is your wife, your happiness does not hinge on them.
Yeah.
And that is what a lot of young people need to understand. That person has not been given the assignment to make you happy. And so undoubtedly they will hurt you,
like
they will
that.
say things to offend you, they will break your boundaries. And that is why I started off by saying that you need to get these things straight with yourself, your identity, your values, and your vision. Once you have identified these things, you have to be consistent with them, regardless of whatever situation that you find yourself in.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so crucial that at the beginning of a relationship, you and that person have a conversation and understand where you're both coming from and try to align. Now, when things like this happen, it's very obvious that there's a misalignment. The person has a different ideology, has a different vision, has a different purpose, has a different orientation from you. But you, once you've done the work, stick to what you have decided, stick to your values. Continue being respectful, continue being polite, continue being courteous. Don't change because the person is putting up. I think, and I believe that's what Ariel is saying, that don't switch, don't change because that person has changed towards you. Be consistent. And, and I'll also mention what Rev said, that sometimes it takes a long time for the person to realize the value of the person you are and the investment that you've made in yourself and the investment you're actually making in them.
Yeah.
And no matter how much they disrespect you, they speak distastefully about you in public, you continue being a straight arrow.
Yeah.
And that is the most important thing, that you keep your value.
Yeah.
Don't change because that person has changed. Keep being kind to them. Keep doing what you have to do. And then, our hope is that the person, it will send a message to them that, it is more than just, this transitory. You look at the season as something that is just in transition. Maybe it's something the two of you have to go through to deepen your bond. There are various ways in which marriages and relationships mature.
Great.
Sometimes it comes through the good times, sometimes it comes through the hard times. So our prayer is that this is one of the ones that would lead to something better.
Great.
But in the meantime, just be who you have decided to be.
Great.
And keep your focus no matter what.
Yeah.
Thank you. Be who you are and keep your focus. It's been a very insightful conversation. I hope you took notes. But then the conversation is on, Facebook at Joy997, on YouTube. We're going to be sharing a lot of, short quotes and videos from this conversation as well. So look out for it within the week. But the joy of every parent is to see their children grow healthy and become more intelligent and physically fit. And to achieve this desire, every parent needs to ensure that their children are given nutritious foods that has the essential nutrients which can promote their well-being. And one of the best of such is Vitamilk soy milk drink. It's made from whole grain soybean, which is a good source of plant protein, and it is enriched with omega-3, 6, and 9, calcium, and the essential nutrients and multivitamins recommended for daily living. It has no coloring, no artificial flavorings, and no preservatives. So choose the Vitamilk Champ for your children because the protein, the calcium, the omega-3, 6, and 9 in it has proven to help your adorable children grow smarter, healthier, and stronger every day. It comes in the regular soy milk drink. You can have it in the energy booster with no caffeine, the choco, the banana, the strawberry. You can buy them in the 250 mils or the 1 liter Tetra Pak. Vitamilk is indeed a nutritious beverage that feels good anywhere, anytime. And this is how we draw the curtain on our show this morning. It's been a very, 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 very insightful conversation, and we appreciate all of you for joining us. Reverend Kofi Boateng Esquire, God bless you. Thank you. Phoebe Besemete, thank you so much. God bless you. And to you, Ariel, the wellness coach, thank you. God bless you. I appreciate all of you. And to our audience, I say thank you for always propelling us to do what we do. Next week, God willing, we will be right here again.